Welcome to Whatcha Watchin, presented by Geeky, a show where we dive into what's currently on our screens. Big screens or little screens, size matter not here, just the quality or lack thereof of our cues. Joining me today in the Go-Go is Anthony Pizzuto and Eric Ho. Gents, how are we doing this week? Eric, we missed you and Toots at lunch on Friday. What's going on?
I had work, so, I had to not join you guys for lunch. Other than that, no, looking forward to the next one. I think we'll be looking for a new place to go have lunch at.
Yeah, that's sad. I'm gonna miss our lunch spot. But yeah, being dragged into the when you've gone to a place too long, when you've yeah. What's the phrase? When you've overstayed your welcome. I think we've overstayed our welcome at our diner. It's time to move on.
It's like the same moment when I used to go to this coffee shop a lot, and it got to the point where the managers start asking me to do things around the coffee shop. So there used to be like a guy who used to go in the bathroom for a long time. So it's like, hey, Eric, man, if you see him in there for too long, just let me know. And I go, okay. So that was when I go, I think I've come here way too much.
Oh, my God.
Look, Rise and Shine is a great place. I don't think we should totally nix it, but maybe like start making a rotation of places and thin it out a little bit.
I like that idea.
Let the dust settle for a bit before we go back.
I like that idea. We'll send Toots a memo on our fax machine so he gets it, since he doesn't show up to the podcast anymore.
Did you guys talk about anything fun while we were not there?
We talked about you two.
We did a production meeting. Let's be professional here, gents.
Sorry.
we're not doing the Rise and Shine ambiance here in the Go-Go. Okay. No, yeah, we did talk about missing you guys. We should really, by the way, put on like a photo of the Rise and Shine dining area on the website so people actually see what we're talking about here.
Our world headquarters. The Geeky A-Go-Go Global Headquarters, Terrell Road, Plainfield, or Scotch Plains, New Jersey.
Nice. Yeah, so it was kind of like a production meeting. We're just brainstorming and stuff like that. Some of the things that Anthony put down here, I'm like, I thought we talked about that, and I think we talked about that offline. So yeah, that's cool. I don't know, what else did we do, Anthony?
Well, this podcast format is what we kind of talked about. For those of you who the three of you who regularly listen to the Geeky A-Go-Go podcast, you may have noticed that Nitro opened for us, and we've called it the Whatcha Watchin, presented by Geeky A-Go-Go. So we're trying something new. We're going to kind of, as Chris described, talk about what we're watching. So it's kind of taking a segment and blowing it out because we want to see if you folks who listen to it, the three of you, appreciate this new pivot in strategy. So that's what happens when Eric and Toots don't show up for production meetings. We completely change the podcast.
We make executive decisions.
Exactly.
Nice. Cool. Yeah, I think that's it. I think that covers all our bases. What did we did test a new piece of equipment you guys missed out on.
Oh, yeah.
But it's kind of we'll have to review that and relate our findings later on. But yeah, that's it. Get right into it, gents.
Let's do it.
Cool. So let's start with Anthony. Anthony, what you watching?
Ooh, I'm kind of liking this new format and having you as the host. It just takes off some pressure from me. You're good at this so far, so you might be the new one. So what am I watching? Whatcha am I watching? Well, I'm way tardy to the party, but I finally watched John Wick Chapter 1. Yes, I know it came out in 2014. That was. Holy cow, that was 10 years ago. So I've clearly been living under a rock. They're up to John Wick Chapter 4. I loved it. I thought it was excellent. And I am so sad that the last 10 years of my life have been absent from, or John Wick's been absent from those. For those of you who haven't seen it, Keanu Reeves, American treasure Keanu Reeves. There's a couple people out there who haven't seen it. There's a couple. He's an ex-hitman, and there's a series of unfortunate events that bring him back into the business for him to seek revenge on a wrong against him. And it's funny, it's action-packed, it's a thriller. Highly recommend it. That was a lot of fun. And there's a new series on Peacock, I think, called The Continental, which takes place in the John Wick universe. I don't believe John Wick is in it, but it's The Continental is a hotel kind of base camp for hitmen that's featured in the movie and clearly in the series. And so Peacock made a special series about it. This is streaming on Netflix, so if you want to catch it, and I think it's leaving soon, so get on it if you are the one or two people who have not seen John Wick. And then this was a travel week for me, so I actually had a lot of things that I watched on the plane. But one of the other things, and this is also on Netflix, is Lover Stalker Killer. It's a Netflix documentary about this very wacky love triangle. And not only is the content of Lover Stalker Killer really good and captivating, but I have to say that the production value of the Netflix documentaries is just outstanding. They also did one about the guy who smuggled Pez dispensers into the country, and they just did a phenomenal job with it. But what I like most about the Netflix documentaries is that they're using the people that the documentary is about to be in the reenactments. And so that just adds a level of quality to the documentary, which I just super appreciate. But Lover Stalker Killer, in a nutshell, this guy and his wife, they get divorced, but he kind of follows her to her new life because they have children and he wants to be near the kids. He starts online dating. He meets a girl, and he's very upfront about the fact that he just wants a casual relationship. And so they have a casual relationship, and then he starts seeing another girl, and the first girl finds out about the new girl, and then the new girl kind of disappears, but starts going crazy via text message, threatening him and threatening his family and all this stuff. But like, she's nowhere to be physically found. She's just communicating with him via text with all these threats and wacky crazy stuff. And then she starts like stalking the first girlfriend. Anyway, there's lots of twists and turns. It's crazy. It makes you, if you're single, not want to date, period. I'm so glad when I was dating, the prevalence of these apps and stuff didn't exist back then. But it is frightening. It's a really good story, and I highly recommend it. I give both of them. Are we going to do disco balls? Can we do disco balls?
Sure.
Okay.
All
right. So I'll give John Wick. I'm going to be loose with my balls. I'm going to give both of them.
Oh, no.
It's a family podcast. I'm going to give both John Wick and Lover Stalker Killer 5 disco balls each. Yes.
Awesome. Did you watch The Continental?
I have not watched it yet. I want to watch.
Okay.
I don't know where it takes place in the universe, but I do want to at least get one more John Wick movie under my belt before I start committing to the.
You don't need
Continental.
to.
Oh, really?
They're separate.
Oh, okay, perfect. Well, then maybe I'll just give it a watch.
I'm looking at a quick synopsis on IMDb, and it says set in the 1970s.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Continental is more of a prequel more than anything else. You don't need to.
Okay, perfect. Okay, yeah, I'll give it a watch then.
Cool. Awesome. I mean, great recommendations. I think. I did see John Wick, and I'm like you. I didn't catch on to John Wick. I knew it was there. I was like, it's a Keanu movie. I definitely want to see it. But I just never did. And then like either 2 or 3, I forgot what it was. A couple of guys were watching it at work. I walked into the break room and I was like, this is interesting. And they're like, oh yeah, this is like the 3rd one. I was like, what? So I definitely got back on the John Wick train there, and I did catch up. I did not see the last one, so I definitely want to catch up and see all of them. Nice. But yeah, and then who doesn't like true crime stories? Like, everybody gets engrossed in them, and the crazier the better. It's just like, what, this happens, really? Cool. Awesome. I'll go next. So I did find out, and we talked about this in an earlier episode of Geeky A Go Go. The show Obliterated on Netflix. Unsurprisingly, it's been canceled. Oh. It was just way too over the top. I rewind to that episode and listen to how I panned it. It was not a great thing. So unsurprisingly, it was canceled. So I thought I'd start with that. Not something I was watching, but something I watched. For sure I knew it was going to get canceled, and it did. What I did watch, I watched just yesterday. So technically it was a watch because there was a screen involved, but it was Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, live in concert at Radio City Music Hall in New York City. If anyone has seen a film live in concert, it's a really cool experience just to see like how things are played, and just slight, it's not the main focus that you're watching and stuff like that, because it's, generally when something is live in concert, it's not the first time you've seen it, but you're paying a special attention to the music. So you don't pick up on all the dialogue. They do put subtitles up, or sometimes you pick up dialogue that you never heard before because you don't watch it with subtitles. I know plenty of heathens that don't watch movies with subtitles, and I don't recommend it. When you get the chance, watch things with subtitles, folks. Yeah, so Two Towers, great film. Fantastic being with other Lord of the Rings lovers. People pointing out on the screen, Aragorn kicks the helmet and everyone's like, oh, look, he broke his toe. Like someone literally screamed, he broke his toe. Because there were a couple people that were confused. Like, why is everybody cheering? It's like, because he broke his toe for real. That was a real scream. So yeah, that was definitely cool points. All the memes that have been like floating in the universe, like, meats on the menu back, boys, and everything, meats back on the menu, boys. It's like everyone's like, oh yeah, the really cool instances. So it was very fun to see a Lord of the Rings film in concert, and it was the second time they did it because they obviously did it with the first one, and they already, at the end of the show, they plastered on the screen they're coming back for the Return of the King next year. So looking forward to that one as well. Yeah, super fun experience. And again, Radio City is just beautiful. Being in that venue is amazing. Acoustics are fantastic. I mean, I'm not an audiophile, but for me, it sounds amazing to watch a show there. Yeah.
That's awesome. Did you see the first one as well there, or just this? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I did. When the Lord of the Rings came out, when Return of the King came out, I remember I went and did those marathons where I think it was in AMC. They did extended version of the first movie, extended version of the second movie, and then roll into the third movie. And to your point, Chris, about like people start shouting things, like once you're being in a room with like 20 or 30 or so people for the entire day, you build like a nice little group feeling towards certain things, and freedom to shout things whenever you want to shout things at the screen. And I remember all throughout the first and second movie, people were like shouting commentaries because everyone has seen the extended and behind the scenes and all the extra materials on the screen. And then when they get to the third movie, for some reason, this theater then opened up for other people who bought the tickets to come in. And people start shouting at them. I'm like, who are you guys? Get out of here. And I distinctly remember it was the same movie. I think that's when they maybe showed like a Spider-Man trailer back then, and people just start throwing stuff at the screen. So, I completely get when fans are very, very involved in this entire thing, and I love that feeling when you go out. And that's what the whole going to a show kind of experience is all about for me.
Yeah. I mean, it's not to the level of, Rocky Horror dressing up, but definitely people dressed up and, enjoyed and whatnot. They didn't show the extended cuts, or I don't even know if they showed the regular cut. It might have been something in between. It might have to do with, length of how long people can play for shows and stuff like that. But it was definitely long, started at 8, ended like around 11:30. Great show. Fantastic.
Did you dress up?
I did not dress up. No, I did not. Yeah, sitting in a seat for several hours with only like a 10-minute break in the middle. I don't recommend it.
So, Chris, you've seen a few of these in concerts. You've also, I'm assuming, saw like one of the Star Wars one when we've trooped at them in the 501st. So, what's a movie that you haven't seen, and it may or may not have an orchestration component to it that you would like to see done that way with a live orchestra?
I'm not a music person. I like music, but I can't be like I want to go listen to that score, but if something like comes across and I'm like, hey, I would listen to that, I definitely would jump on it. Obviously, venue is important. Like, I don't know if I would travel across the country to go see something that's that hard. I think at some point I contemplated going to see Ghostbusters. As we all know, I'm a fan. But it wasn't playing anywhere nearby or anywhere nearby convenient, so I was like, I'm not really going to do it. But I did think about it. But yeah, it has to be a convenience factor to it. I think this year the New Jersey Symphony Orchestra is performing Batman.
Oh, that's cool.
Live. I'm trying to find it on a calendar here, if it exists, because it may not. But yeah, it definitely, that's, again, because it's convenient, it's nearby here in Newark. It's something I would watch. But yeah, something I would really absolutely would like to see live. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not an aficionado, but if the opportunity arises, I'd go see it. Kind of like this, Lord of the Rings. It's amazing, surrounded by people that also like it. It makes it easier. Like, Eric, to your point, if you're in a small theater with like 20, 30 people that are staying through the entire marathon, you kind of get that kindred spirit thing. Going to Radio City, you're there with like, I don't even know how much the venue holds, but a couple thousand maybe. So you kind of want to go with a group of people.
Nice.
What about you? What would you watch?
Oh, Ghostbusters. I would love, but I would love to see it. And I know that they do it, but I don't know if they do. I know that they do the Elmer, is it Bernstein? The orchestrations, but I'd love to see one that also does the like the Ray Park, like have someone up on stage singing the Ray Park song, Ghostbusters, or the one where they're going to the Sedgwick Hotel. The name's escaping me right now. I actually just rewatched Ghostbusters last night. I think that would be a lot of fun to see, live band, live singers, putting on the Ghostbusters. That would be a blast. What about you, Eric?
Yeah, I think I would love to go see. Well, I mean, there's a lot of really these kind of popular movies that people know that have these kind of things, right? Like Star Wars, Lord of the Rings. I think that when I am looking for these kind of things, I want to go see movies that are known for their music scores, like things that will just, especially that I can feel differently when I watch them live. I'm thinking things like, I mean, I guess there's a Jurassic Park, Gladiator, things with like crazy score. Yeah, I think there's a certain reason why like things like Harry Potter live in concert is also very popular, because music is such a essential part of that storytelling. Blade Runner, like I think that these kind of sound effects and sound and music that kind of happens, I want to see more that goes beyond like the Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, Star Wars kind of realm. Like I want to go a little deeper to see that live.
Cool. And I just looked it up. This will be a fun one. So Batman is performing. New Jersey Symphony is performing Batman in Newark on March 2nd. If anybody's willing to go, which is coming up really quick. But a really fun one that may be up some people's alley, and it's a little different. But it's Matilda performed live. However, Danny DeVito is narrating live at the state at the. I think
that's fun.
State, yeah,
that's awesome.
At the State Theater in New Jersey. It's in New Brunswick. That's March 22nd. So those are two really cool events, I think. Something a little bit out of the stuff, and of course Star Wars. I mean, we go to Star Wars almost every year now. They're coming back in for Return of the Jedi, April 4th through 7th. So shout out to New Jersey Symphony. and all these wonderful venues here in New Jersey. Yeah, really cool. I would do the Danny DeVito thing. That's really cool to hear Danny DeVito narrate something really live. And then back to an actual screen for myself. Although, like I said, it was a movie. We did watch a film, even though it was more for the orchestra. I'm continuing to watch Big Bang Theory. Right? Discovered it. I knew it was on my queue. I never just bothered to watch it. It was at the cusp of where TV was kind of transforming, where like people sat down in front of the tube at a specific date and a specific time. I'm not. That was a time frame where like Netflix started becoming really popular, and then maybe Hulu started coming up. And Hulu had this thing where you could watch things on demand. And I didn't subscribe to TiVo back then and whatnot, so I said, you know what, I'll watch Big Bang Theory on DVD when it comes out. And then I never bothered. And then now it's on Max, so I watch Big Bang Theory. And I know Eric isn't too fond of it because it gets too close to home, but I love it. I guess I am a geek. I am a nerd. I like science, so a lot of these things are like really hit home when I'm watching it. It's very funny to me.
All right, how many balls?
So Lord of the Rings, obviously 5 disco balls, right? That's hands down. Seeing a production live, I recommend to anybody. Just find something you like, you love, and go watch it. And so for me, Lord of the Rings definitely ticks those boxes. Big Bang Theory, I'm not all the way through yet, so I will withhold it. But you know what? I'll give it a rating up until now. Like I said, I'm up in the beginning of season 4. I'll give it 4 disco balls.
All right. Wow. Okay. So we finally broke the 5-ball barrier and went to 4. Okay. All right.
Moving on, Eric, what you watching?
What did I watch this week? Well, a few things, mostly TV related. Jon Stewart came back to The Daily Show this week, so check that out. It's crazy how it feels like he just hasn't left, and then they definitely made a lot of jokes about that. And it's interesting to see a show managing, because I will bet it would be kind of annoying being a correspondent or somebody who maybe was in the running to take over that show, to see like the old boss coming back and everyone will be like, how? And you can't really argue against that, but then you're kind of annoying because you're like, I thought it's my chance. Like, why don't you let the new people give it a crack? And so they actually just tackled that heads on in the first episode, made a lot of jokes about that, which I think is fun. It'll be interesting to see what he's like moving into the election season, which is, how Stewart kind of exploded in the first place anyway in the early 2000s. So we'll be interested to see that. So watch that. And I haven't seen a Daily Show in years, and so this was the first time I went back, and I think I hear from the ratings that this is the same for a lot of folks. So let's see if that continues or drops off. He's only doing like 1 day a week on the show. So that's the Daily Show, and then I watched. I'm continuing to watch Halo. So Halo season 2 is out, and Halo Season 1 was somewhat controversial for a lot of folks because, people always wonder what it's like doing like a video game to a TV show kind of situation. It's maybe not what they had imagined. And Season 2 so far has been kind of slow, but you can tell that they're building up to something big. And I think next episode is going to be a lot bigger. And I think I am approaching this very much like the way that people, that I've said before, how people should approach watching Star Wars prequels and sequels, which is just treat it like a regular TV show. Like, don't think of how it kind of connects back to the lore, and then just appreciate it for what it is, right? And I think that I've been reading a lot on how I think season 2 has a different showrunner now for Halo, and then there might be a lot more action, which I think is what people are looking for, and I think that's kind of coming down the pipe. And then the last thing I saw was well, we're getting ready for Dune Part 2 to come out. So this week we finished watching Dune Part 1, the movie, just to get ready. And I think ready for that. I remember once I finished watching Part 1 thinking that I wish I had seen 2 at the same time, because part one was really much like a build up and a story building, and it's beautiful. And see, that's another movie that I would love to watch in like maybe in a concert setting, right? So the music's great, the cinematic is great, but it kind of left you hanging a little bit. And I've read the book, so I kind of knew, even though it's a little different, I'm like, oh, cool. Like, I know that they're setting up for something big that's about to happen in part two. So we watched that to get ready for part two. And once that come out, I would love to kind of watch them all together. So that's what I watched this week.
So I'm going to clarify my look of confusion and disdain. I thought you said Doom because we were talking about video games. And I was like, there's a Doom Part 2 coming out? Oh, jeez. What the? Why would they do that?
I would not be opposed to having a Doom Part 2.
Oh, my God. That's great.
I mean, I agree with your sentiment there about the being conscientious about a video game being moved over to the big screen or the little screen in this case. And that's what made my mind go back to Doom with an M at the end. That sequence in the film where like everything was just first person, and they're just taking out a bunch of space aliens or whatever it was. I forgot. They tried to block that film out of my mind. So yeah, that's what got to it. I'm with you on when I heard Halo was coming out, I thought it was going to be comical, kind of like the Red versus Blue online series. I don't know if you guys have heard about Red versus Blue or
Yes.
It's
so good.
So for Anthony, it's a bunch of guys that took the actual first Halo game, and were doing voiceovers and like setting up scenes and multiplayer. Yeah. And they noticed this thing that the Master Chief like does like a head nod when they do a specific motion. So like it looks like he's talking, and like when they're looking around, and so it's like it kind of like they just basically did this thing, and then they cut out like the top of the screen where like the heads up display and the bottom of the screen it shows you like your map settings and stuff like that. So it's like this widescreen like cinematic looking production done in game with voiceovers. Like it sounds like they're over the telephone talking to each other. Hilarious. It's super funny.
It's so awesome. Bad now that you watch it. It's so bad and so good at the same time.
It's done by, I think it's called Rooster Teeth Productions.
Oh yeah, I know them.
Yeah. So when I heard Halo was coming out on Paramount, I was like, "Oh, is this going to be hilarious, or is this going to be something more to the storyline?" And it's a real series. So it didn't become a priority to go watch. Plus, I didn't have Paramount Plus at the time, so it fell off. And now it's in season 2, and I have Paramount Plus, so I do have to catch up on that as well. So I'm cool. I like to hear that it's controversial and they got a different showrunner to kind of like reboot it and whatnot. So I'm looking forward to.
Wait, hold on. If Anthony has not seen Red vs. Blue, do you know what Homestar Runner is?
No.
Oh man, you're missing out on a period of internet animation history that we need to go real deep in another episode.
Homestar Runner.
Yes, that's around the same time that I got real into Homestar Runner in addition to Red vs. Blue.
Yeah, Red vs. Blue is online for free. You could definitely watch that. 18 seasons? Holy cow. I have like the first season on DVD or something.
Yeah, I had the DVDs.
No, yeah, I have no idea. Home as American. Huh, no. When was this?
Yeah, those webtoons were like huge back then, early 2000s.
Yeah, how are you?
I must have been aware of them. I'm just not. They just have not locked themselves into my my own hard drive.
Anthony had satellite internet up in Maine.
Yeah, okay.
In the booties of Maine, so you couldn't watch anything. Cool, but yeah, Eric, I definitely agree about Dune. It's definitely something that deserves a whole long watch and in concert and whatnot. Or I mean, just like a fan showing. Let's rent out a theater and we'll do a live Geeky Go show watching Dune with all our fans.
Yeah, actually, how much did it cost these days to rent out a movie theater?
Not a lot.
It's not a whole lot, right? You can rent like a birthday party theater situation.
We should do that for. Cool. We should do that for Dune, but we should do that for. I'm blanking. Why am I blanking? Phantom Menace.
How about we do that for our 100th episode? Let's get to 100 episodes. Then we rent out movie theaters.
I'm
Okay,
just saying
guys?
hang out.
Just to
I'm
hang
just
out?
saying hang out. Yeah, I don't care about a live show. It's
We'll get some
we
takeaway
could just
from Rise and Shine and go dine at the Cinemark.
turn Cinemark into a dining theater.
And Eric, compare. So last year we also saw, or was it last year or the year before? Last of Us hit the small screen as well, which there was a lot of concern because that is such a beloved. I've never played Halo because I'm not an Xbox guy, but Last of Us is such a beloved game, and it's been around for a long time. People love it. They've replayed it over and over again. They love the characters, and so I know when there was the casting was announced, there was a lot of head scratching and concern. But then it premiered and it came out great. How did you feel about Last of Us translating from a platform game to a hit HBO series?
So it was funny. I actually, because I'm an Xbox person, I never played Last of Us.
Oh wow! Okay.
However, I have read all the things that people were talking about from regarding the adaptations. Honestly, I feel like people really enjoyed Last of Us's adaptation into a TV format, whereas, and this might be controversial, I just feel like Halo has such a longer history than Last of Us and such a much more longer established fan base and then that adding on to the fact that this Halo show has been being talked about, being made for like years at this point. And so when it finally came out, I think people were probably a little bit more disappointed in general because of it, right? Because I think when you have such a high expectation of a show and it came out being like, oh, okay, like that's it, and maybe people have imaginations of what they imagine what the show should look like. People are probably a little bit more let down. And my understanding of it is that The Last of Us is a little bit more of a fair, not straightforward, but more, what's the word? Like it's more following the source material kind of a little bit more, with, against the game versus I think Halo has taken its own liberty in talking about, they're talking about backstory of Master Chief, right? And then, like there was controversial decisions that they made where in the games, like, well, the biggest thing is when Master Chief took off his helmet in Halo, everyone freaked out, right? And so, there are little things that this show has done that has caused a lot of conversation online. And I think there were controversy about where they had asked the showrunner or somebody tied to season 1 of, did you play the game? And the person's like, no, I intentionally did not want to play the game. I want to be able to tell the story the way that we want to tell the story. So I respect that and like that. But I think that if you're asking how a hardcore video game player would feel comparing the two adaptation, I would probably guess people think that Last of Us is a lot more of a fair, like faithful representation of the video game than Halo, the TV show, is.
So we kind of experienced some of that in the Star Wars community as well with the Mandalorian. No one should remove their helmet and blah 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 blah. And then I hope, I forgot who owns it. Is it Bungie or is it Microsoft now that owns Halo? I would hope they would have enough people that are keeping track of the continuity of the game to not allow a showrunner to be like, hey, you have carte blanche, do whatever you want. Whereas it's like, no, we're letting you take off the helmet. This is part of the Star Wars lore versus the Halo lore. Like, so for people to be like, no, he's not allowed to take off the helmet. I'm like, there's other people involved here that say, no, you're allowed to do that, or no, you're not allowed to do that. I don't know how you guys feel about that. No comment. Okay, check. Ratings, let's go.
Look, I again, you guys don't know. I might at this point my feeling on like just treat as serious as it is. So let's not compare kind of situation. So I'm not tied to these kind of lower situation. Out of 5 balls, Halo so far. I don't know. I don't think it's fair to give it a rating yet when the season hasn't wrapped up. But for now, I will give you a 3 just to be tentative. But I think this will very quickly flip to a much higher ball count in the next few episodes once it kind of goes up. If the trailers so far that they're releasing for the future episodes hold true. So I'm looking forward to that. And then Dune Part 1, 5 balls right there. Not Doom. Doom Part 1 gets maybe 2, if not 1 ball. So.
And what about Jon Stewart's return? How many balls does Jon Stewart get?
Jon Stewart doesn't get any balls yet.
Balls.
I think I don't know. Giving balls to a semi-parody news show situation. I don't know how I feel about that.
All right.
So, is that an option? No balls yet.
No balls yet.
Okay, we'll make that. No balls yet.
You know what? This is our show.
Yeah.
We can do whatever we want.
Yes.
Man, I have so many comments I want to make, but this is supposed to be family friendly, so no balls yet.
Tim is not present, obviously, so we'll reserve his review for our next Whatcha Watchin show presented by Geeky a Go-Go. But we'll wrap it up and we'll throw right back to Mr. Pizzuto and he'll give us the closing out. Thank you.
All right. Well, just a recap. John Wick, Chapter 1, 5 balls. Lover, Stalker, Killer on Netflix, 5 balls. Lord of the Rings in concert, if you can go check it out, well, that also has 5 balls. Big Bang Theory, Season 4, 4 balls so far. Halo, 3 balls so far. Dune Part 1, big old 5 balls. And Daily Show, no balls yet. All right, that's all we have this week. Make sure you follow us everywhere at Geeky a Go-Go and let us know what you're watching. Make sure you subscribe or follow the podcast on your favorite platform, and please leave us a review. It doesn't cost you a thing, and it does help us reach more and more people. Thanks so much for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.